Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the story of tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams' sister, Yetunde Price. Yetunde was born on August 9th, 1972 in Saginaw, Michigan. She was the firstborn child of Brandy Price's kids, and her father was a man named Yusuf, who Brandy married in 1972. They had two other kids, which included two daughters, Lindrea, born in 1973, and Isha, born in 1975. Around 1979, the girls lost their father Yusuf after he died from a stroke. The family later moved to California. Brandy later met Richard Williams, who already had around 5 kids of his own from a previous marriage. Brandy and Richard married by 1980 and had Venus in 1980 as well. In 1981, they had Serena and settled in Compton, California. During the 80s and 90s, Compton was no joke, with gang violence going all around the city, to numerous Crips and Paru sets banging and taking lives. Brandy and Richard vowed to keep their 5 girls in their household away from that life and made them focus on school and other activities, one being tennis, using tennis as a potential way to make it out the hood one day. Yetunde, being the oldest child in the household, held a lot of responsibilities and always was an overachiever, always performing well in school, but she didn't share her passion for tennis like Richard tried to instill. But with her 2 younger sisters, Venus and Serena, being so dedicated to the sport, this would forever change the family lives. With years of working on their craft for tennis, Serena and Venus would get a lot of attention, and many people would want to start investing in them and their tennis careers. This led to, by 1990, the family moving to Florida, for Venus and Serena could be trained by one of the top coaches in the country. Yetunde decided instead of leave Compton with her family, she wanted to stay and continue her life that was already built in Compton. Yetunde would be in honors classes at Linwood High School and be an honor student. After graduating high school, Yetunde went into nursing school and later became a registered nurse. Yetunde worked at St. Francis Medical Center in Linwood for several years. She would later have her first child named Jeffrey. As the years grew, so did Serena and Venus, with them becoming future tennis stars in the mid and late 1990s. But this was never something Yetunde used in her life to benefit her. She wanted to be known for what she could do, not her sister's accomplishments, but her own. Most people didn't even know Yetunde was related to Serena and Venus. Yetunde opened her own salon and even started attending college. In 1996, Yetunde later met a contractor named Byron. They later married and had 2 kids, Justice and Jair. They eventually would be separated by 2000. In 1997, Yetunde started working as an assistant for her famous sisters and traveled with them to 1997 US Open in Wimbledon. Yetunde handled their personal lives, business matters, sent faxes, managed emails, and also calls. In the early 2000s, Yetunde was said to be dating Roland, a parolee who worked odd jobs and was said to be from Mac Mafia Crip in Long Beach. They met at a party, and this later led to a relationship. Soon they began seeing each other as often as possible. Despite having the chances to leave Compton, with the wealth and opportunity her family accumulated over the years, Yetunde didn't want to leave the only home she knew, even having a home in Corona, but she always visited Compton. On September 14th, 2003, Yetunde and Roland were in Compton near a house on Greenleaf and Southside Compton Crips turf. The street in the house they were near was used as a trap house for the Southside Compton Crips. Seeing an unfamiliar car put the Southside Compton Crips on alert, thinking it may be a rival coming to do a drive-by, but Yetunde and Roland were just passing through to get to her home. The Southside Compton Crips began shooting at the car, and Roland drove off in fear, and later noticed that Yetunde was shot. He drove to his mother's house, who called 911. Yetunde was pronounced dead at the hospital. She only been miles away from the tennis courts that Richard trained her and her sisters to play tennis. The sudden death sent shockwaves through the close-knit family. Venus got the news in New York while she was visiting Fashion Week. Serena was in Toronto filming for a series. Both would immediately fly to LA to be with their parents and the rest of their family. The arresting of the accused was quick, while one of the alleged shooters was taken into custody within hours. A second man named Robert was not caught until January 2004, following months of tracking by law enforcement. Robert, who was from Southside Compton Crip, was arrested in a raid. Robert would go to trial for this case 3 times. In November 2004, the first trial ended in November 2004 with 6 jurors voting for him to be acquitted and 5 voting for him to be guilty and 1 undecided. A second mistrial was declared on April 29, 2005, when jurors deadlocked at 11-1 in favor of the conviction. The second defendant in his case was later dismissed after his first trial. On April 6, 2006, Robert was resentenced and received 15 years in prison, with the possibility of parole. He was released in 2018, and he was last said to be working and have up to 6 kids. The rapper The Game would later mention Yetunde in his song Dreams. Over the years, the Williams sisters always kept Yetunde's name alive. To honor their sister's memory, Venus and Serena Williams started the Yetunde Price Resource Center in Compton.
Okay, so we've arrived to the Yetunde Price Resource Center, and it's very special because Yetunde Price is my sister. And unfortunately and tragically, she is not here with us today, but we're able to do this center in her memory and our family's memory, and most of all, serve our community. And the reason I say our community is it's still my community. I still have roots here. I'm so proud to come home and say, this is my home, this is where I'm from. And I'm very proud when I say Compton, that people know what Compton is and where it is.
For the communities like the one that we came from. And doing something with the legacy that Yetunde left, to not necessarily recreate the wheel, but to provide assistance with resources and programmatic things that the people in the community could actually benefit from and learn from and really make an impact in a real way is what we've always wanted to do. We've been doers, not just dreamers. And so we wanted to kind of pass that on to the community.
2021, a movie called King Richard was released, starring Will Smith. It followed the lives of Richard Williams, his kids, and his family, in the early beginnings, and what they had to go through to make it, and the struggles that Serena and Venus had to go through to become the successful tennis stars they are today. Serena would later say seeing her sister being played in a movie brought back all the emotions she had when she died. Yetunde was only 31 and a mother of 3 who got her life cut short. R.I.P. to her. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.